Hello, friends. Robert Bevan here, author of the Caverns Creatures series of comedy, fantasy novels, and short stories. With me is Sam West, and today we're going to be. Today we're starting a couple of spells in a row. Where we're going to be talking about wintry things to go along with the season, and
Festivus for the rest of us kind of deal.
a Festivus for the rest of us. And we're going to start with a small one, a tiny little cantrip called Ray of Frost. Now, a few weeks ago, Sam and I reviewed our top 5 wizard cantrips, and I chose Ray of Frost as one of my top 5. And Sam said, and I quote, "Bob, you're stupid and I hate you," which I thought was a little harsh.
A little hurtful. I know that's a little bit out of left field for me, but I just felt it in the moment that it was right.
Go watch that video, and you'll see
it. There were some intense words talked about Ray of Frost. I went into it there, and we're gonna go more in depth into it here. How about we start though with that spell description? Sound good to you?
Yeah. What does it do?
Okay, so Ray of Frost cantrip, as aforementioned, it is a wizard cantrip. It's also an artificer and sorcerer cantrip. One action to cast. It's got a 60-foot cast range, and when I was looking this over, I was like, oh man, am I really going to mention that it's got like half the range of Firebolt whenever I talked about that not mattering at all for Firebolt? And I'm like, okay, we'll get back to it. Instantaneous range spell attack. You shoot a blue beam of white light that's reached towards a creature. Make a ranged spell attack against that creature. On hit, it takes a d8 cold damage. Speed is reduced by 10 feet until the start of its next turn. And then as you increase in level, it gets a d8 bonus damage. So at 5th, 11th, and 17th level, it goes to 2d8, 3d8, and 4d8 respectively. Ray of Frost at the floor is like worse Firebolt, basically. It's a d8 cold damage at meaning like it's effectively the same range. Like the extra 60 feet doesn't make that big of a difference.
Except
But
it does. I wish those two ranges were reversed.
In this specific case, absolutely. If this spell had 100 foot range, it actually would be meaningfully better. But like for the sake of just a damaging cantrip, it makes very little difference at this range now. And like if we're looking at them without the extra effect, you're absolutely right. I land that if you get a Ray of Frost and it ever eats a meaningful creature's action, not one of the 12 add-on kobolds, but instead one of the 2 or 3 set piece monsters, this spell is excellent. I will say what I said in that video. I have DM'd for this spell dozens of times. I have not once, not one time, seen a Ray of Frost both connect and have the 10 feet of speed require something to dash instead of taking its regular action. It's never happened.
Yeah, well, you speak from experience. I speak from my ass, and I think it could happen.
Sure, it definitely could. My opinion is certainly biased. I am only referencing anecdotes of my personal play experiences. So, there's a non-zero chance that I'm just wrong, and that for some reason a miracle of divine fate interventions come down and made none of my players able to use this effectively for some reason. And somewhere else in the world, everyone else is like, oh my god, I'm needing so many actions. My Ray of Frost are just slowing giants down left and right. We're all good. Sam, you run too small battle maps. Maybe that's the problem.
Were they actively trying to use this strategically, getting right up on the edge of the 60 feet and
whenever you're going into combat, I find that the first instinct and objective isn't how do I best weaponize this specific element of my character sheet. It is what element of my character sheet is best weaponized in this situation, right? So there isn't often a conscious thought to say, now is the moment where I'm going to get within exactly 30 feet of the creature, Ray of Frost it, and make it have to dash to get to me, right?
It's 60 feet.
Right, but I'm saying for the dash, when the dash will occur, let's do this math real quick, because I think I screwed up the math in my prior video, or the prior chat. To make the creature dash, if it has a 30-foot speed, if it can get to you using its movement of 30 feet, it means it's within 5 to 30 feet of you. If it is within 20 feet of you to 5 feet of you, it can do that regardless. Even if its speed becomes 20, it can still get to you, right? So that leaves from 21 to 30 feet. If you hit it with a Ray of Frost, it now has to dash. So that is the first instance that it has to dash. The second instance where you're going to the next interval is whenever a creature is not 60 feet away from you, because when 60 feet away from you, it already has to dash to get to you once. So we're looking then, because if it takes a full turn to dash and get to you, it has its regular movement next turn. The next instance that interval distance is going to matter is 100 or 90 feet, right? Because, or sorry, yes, exactly 90 feet, 80 to 90 feet, because this is the full dash round plus 20 feet. That is the next instance where it'll matter, because now it'll have to dash twice instead of once. And notably, Ray of Frost only has a 60-foot range.
Yes, I think that's a problem. However, if you do go the full 60 feet, then yes, it doesn't have to dash any more times. But when you're setting yourself up for the next round, if you keep stick, move, then I don't know. Maybe your players are stupid.
If we walk through the scenario where we're cutting things backward infinitely, a 10-foot distance and speed over having 60 feet of movement total to go, which goes down to 40 if you dash right, means if we look at the logistics of it, you don't get any extra rounds of kiting it out. You would shoot it from 60, move 3 back, you're at 90, it approaches 40, you move within 10 feet and get to 60, it moves in within 20, and that's the same instance as if you had done it the other way, just moving. None of the action economy changes with the kiting strategy, with just Ray of Frost and a single creature in the big white room. And people don't play in the big white room.
Right now, we've been exclusively talking about creatures with 30-foot movements. I know that's the norm, but not everybody does have that.
Slower creatures this is meaningful against. There just aren't any of those.
There are plenty of them. There's even like player races.
The 25-foot speeds, it'll be almost the same. 20 is where you're like, okay, it can only go 10 feet this round versus 15 with the dash. 15 is 30, and that's the intervals that you tend to build maps in, is the move speed distance is 30, 30, 30, 30, so the dash is there. In any case, yes, if you're fighting against dwarves and halflings, great, but most of the small races that are like monstrous, like kobolds and goblins, all at 30 feet, and they're phasing out a lot of the like halflings and dwarves in D&D 1 are looking to have 30-foot move speeds. Like there's even a feat that basically says, we're sorry, we're patching out small races to be the same speed because no one likes going at 25 feet for no good reason. It's being changed because, like, sense be damned, this is a role-playing game. Let's let people navigate the battle map and be allowed to be different sizes without having weird penalties that feel arbitrary and pointless. Which, there are pros and cons to that. I'm a big fan of this change, but that's neither here nor there. I think it is meaningfully better against slower creatures because it's going to force more of them to dash. But Bob, like, what slower creature do you want to shoot this at?
Big gelatinous cube.
What's the speed on a gelatinous cube? I actually don't know the answer to that question.
I assume it's slow.
I would assume that too.
Like a sprinter.
I think it might be that if you ray across a gelatinous cube, it just doesn't get to move ever again. It's got a speed of 15, so yeah. We found a solution to gelatinous cube problems, full stop. You shoot it with Ray of Frost and it doesn't go anywhere because it only has 15-foot move speed.
Worth it. I
would ask you, is there a window where a 15-foot speed's getting to you anyway?
There are creatures in this window somewhere.
Sure. I think there are a few.
Yeah, there are going to be a few of those, and I still think the dwarves and halflings count.
Yes.
And what else? And regardless, what's a firebolt damage? 1d10.
This is, I think, the more important argument.
You're trading 2 points for something with a potential other effect, and I think that's, I won't say definitely worth it, but could be worth it. Potentially worth it.
Here's what I think. I think that if you're going to play a character with the intention of being a damage dealer early, and that is what you care about the most, that is when you're casting your cantrips. So if your goal with your character from 1st to 3rd level is to do a reasonable amount of out-of-combat damage, the D10 versus D8, hitting 10s is going to kill things with 10 HP that D8s aren't, obviously. But, like, that is when it's going to feel the most important. As you scale into the game, you're casting cantrips less and less. There's things that phase out of utility, especially the in-combat damage ones, because you have better things to be doing with your actions. If you care more in the early tier about an attempt to be a supportive character that is also doing damage, I would say there is a window where this is like, I guess this is maybe worth it once. Again, if you ever hit a creature that's exactly 20 feet away from you, you eat an action, and that justifies it over Firebolt 100% of the time. I'm on board with it. Just because I don't see it happening doesn't mean it doesn't happen.
Yeah. Another scenario. Difficult terrain.
Difficult terrain is better, yes. If you're comboing this with your druid.
Using this with, but you don't need, I mean, it's not a concentration spell. You can make your own difficult terrain and then blast them with firebolts while they're trying to get out.
I mean,
not firebolts, ray of frost.
So I don't think this is where the next small problem to me comes in. Difficult terrain spells just inherently aren't that good, and I don't think Ray of Frost makes them that like better enough that I'm building around it. I think there may be a build that exists where you go, that's my objective. My objective is to create a big area of difficult terrain, lock something into it, and wail on it. You could hold person, you could Tasha's or Hideous Laughter, you could do a whole bunch of other things that keep something in place, and you can just kick the crap out of it a bunch of other ways, right? Like they say there aren't a lot of ways to make that more powerful than things that already exist. Not necessarily a problem. You can still make builds that are, aimed at trying to make a specific place pattern work. That's fine. I don't know if Ray of Frost is such a huge element to that, especially given the classes that it's for. If Ray of Frost was a druid cantrip, I'd be like, I get it. That makes sense to me. I think the Circle of the Land Coast or Arctic Druids, it'd make a lot of sense for them to like ask your DM, be like, hey, can I take Ray of Frost? Because I'll be doing like an Arctic themed entanglement where I like change the name of entangle or the theme of it to be slippery ice terrain, and then I Ray of Frost things while they're moving through it and like, grind things to a halt. That fits the druidic ice Arctic fantasy really well, and it works with the spells they're given. For sorcerers wizards, you have like Grease, which isn't really difficult terrain, but it knocks things prone, so it does a similar movement effect at low tiers. And again, I think the moment you're passing like 5th level, you don't want to cast this cantrip anymore. You want to use your spell slots.
You brought up the druid. I think you even like started to touch on this before, but the druid cast entangle, and you Ray of Frost, and hey, you've got the teamwork you love so much.
I do love that kind of teamwork. Bob, when's the last time you talked to your other party members about making a cool build that overlapped? Have you ever been like, hey, Druid, I want to take Ray of Frost. Can you please take Entangle?
You can't argue against teamwork because nobody does it.
I can't say that this thing that never happens isn't a good reason to not validate the spell.
I would 100% say so. I think, hey, watch these videos and learn how to work as a team. And
that's fair.
There you go.
So, okay, if we're going to touch on that, then I think it is important to say I would highly recommend having more brainstorming with your other party members about your abilities. I would ask them, does anyone have or want to take options that may empower a slowing ability? Is there a way we can come up with a cool 1-2 punch? Can we combine our abilities and, Voltron it up, Wonder Kids style, get a more than the sum of its parts? Because Ray of Frost really needs that to be the case, and it needs to be the case in the first 3 levels of the game, maybe 5 levels of the game again if we're really pushing it, for it to justify existing. And a lot of the time in those first 5 levels, people are they're locking in their own identity, they're locking in their own fantasies, they're figuring out what this character's about. A lot of the time they're fleshing out personalities, they're fleshing out exactly how they envision just them in a vacuum, right? Their own character, not in the context of the party, but as an entity. And then as you get later into the room, they start fitting in the relationships and everything, right? People get more comfortable in the role play, people get more comfortable into their thing, and that's where you start to see a little bit more overlap. I think it's a tall order to get it to happen at first level, but I would recommend trying it out just out of the gate, working with your friends, saying I'm gonna take Ray of Frost. I'm gonna let everyone know I'm taking Ray of Frost. You could take things that slow people down, and this could work really well together. If we're ever being it costs, double move speed to go through this 40 feet, I can get a full extra round of Ray of Frost at them if, they're an average creature with 30 speed because of the difficult terrain. That becomes a lot more meaningful. The difficult terrain gets better, the Ray of Frost gets better, everyone gets better, and everyone's happy. The rogue gets more attacks, you feel more cooperative. The reality of it is that'll incidentally happen. Maybe you have a druid and a wizard in the party, and the druid took Entangle, and the wizard took Frostbolt, and maybe that one encounter just lines up without people thinking about it, because there's already so much track on your own sheet that it's hard to be oh, and you don't also want to be the person that's oh, do that thing so I can do this thing, and kind of take control of everyone's sheets. There's a lot of
that's what I was thinking, the incidental thing, because I was thinking for every future wizard or sorcerer I play, I'm probably going to cast Ray of Frost or choose Ray of Frost, and occasionally I'll be in a party with somebody that casts Entangle or some such thing, and then I'll be useful.
Sure. I think I give it a lot of shit because I think the real use case, the vast majority of the time, and when I say vast majority of the time, I'm talking 95+% of the time this spell gets cast, is that it is just a worse firebolt. Because that's the reality of how I find the slow to matter whenever you would want to cast it. I think that difference still between a D8 and D10 is small enough that that's a nitpick. I think that between these two, if you're looking for a damaging cantrip, they're basically the same. Like, this is not that much more, that meaningfully worse, especially at the majority tables that aren't trying to power game the numbers, trying to get the most efficient thing possible, that don't really care about every little engine detail they can get off their sheet to get every little extra advantage. This will be as good as Firebolt the vast majority of the time.
But Firebolt lights stuff on fire, though, right?
I find that to be about as meaningful as the 10-foot slow, because a tinderbox can do that, right? Like, it isn't a particularly huge upside. So if this is something that speaks to you, if you're like, I really like the cold thing, or like you, Bob, you really think
I like the slow thing.
You like the slow thing. Maybe someone down the road, you take it on every one of your characters because you're gonna have that moment. It's gonna be sweet, and you're gonna text me, and I'm gonna be like, I'm so proud of you.
You're gonna say, I don't believe you.
Send photos. This didn't happen. I gave it a lot of shit. I don't think it's very good. Don't think Firebolt's very good either. I don't think you need them, but like, it's perfectly fine. I think that if you want a damaging cantrip, and a lot of people do in the first 5 levels of the game, this is an acceptable way to do it. It's just, you know, a damage and a half worse than a Firebolt, and that's not the end of the world.
All right. We got a rating?
I think this is a 2. I think this is not a good range damage cantrip that is better than what I would rate a 3, which is Firebolt. So, like, cool.
All right. I will be a real... I'm not going to give it a 2, but I will be realistic. I wouldn't call it like super high tier. I think it's mid-level. I think it's got potential. I'm giving it a 3.
Okay, sounds good to me.
All right, that was Ray of Frost. Before I forget, please, commenters, comment. Let us know what you think.
Also, if someone could actually like do the math on the kiting thing, because I was mainly talking at my ass, but I'm pretty sure you don't get like a more than a round of meaningful advantage cutting back with Frost or Ray of Frost, but I'd love to see the math in the comments if anyone has the time.
All right. That was Ray of Frost. Thank you, Sam, and thank you everyone for joining us. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, informative, or entertaining, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button below. You needn't smash it. A gentle tap will suffice. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel. And make sure you check out the links in the description, where you'll find my Caverns and Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels, Sam's full review of the spell, and other fun things.